Hey, this is Scene Detail. I'm Chris. This is MMA for you. I'm going to be doing my post-fight analysis for UFC 159. Overall, I'd gotta say that this card was pretty much a mixed bag. Very bizarre night. 2 eye pokes, Jon Jones big toe injury, Yancy Medeiros thumb injury. I mean, it just one of those nights, man. It was just really odd. If you actually think about it, Jon Jones is dominating the first round, and if Sonnen managed to survive, there is a chance that Sonnen could have been UFC light heavyweight champion because Jon Jones was injured not from a foul. And the doctor could have stopped the fight, or if he said, "Oh, I can't continue," then Sonnen would be light heavyweight champion. So that's a really interesting thought there. As far as my picks go, I got 8 out of 11. The ones I missed are Cody McKenzie versus Leonard Garcia, Brian Caraway versus Johnny Bedford, and one big surprise of the night, Pat Healy versus Jim Miller. Yeah, mixed bag. What can I say? Yancy Medeiros thumb injury, kind of sucks. Eye pokes galore. Some fights were really good, Some fights were okay. And then there were stinkers like OSP versus Vellante mixed in there as well. So, so let's get right to it. Jon Jones manages to retain his championship as he beat Chael Sonnen by TKO in the first round. There was some argument here with that it was stopped too early. I didn't personally mind the stoppage. Chael looked like he was just kind of defending. He's kind of in the fetal position. I mean, I guess they could have let it go for another couple seconds, but overall, I can't really hate on the call here. It looks like Chael Sonnen, it sounded like he was retiring. As far as Jon Jones goes, I mean, he's gonna have to take some time off. If Daniel Cormier wants to cut to 205, get an immediate shot against Jon Jones, that'd be pretty cool. If not, Jon Jones has said that he'd like to fight Alexander Gustafsson. I'd like to see that fight. I mean, I'd choose Jones to win, but I think it's still an interesting fight. I think the more interesting thing is that he mentioned going to heavyweight or doing super fights. It looks like Jones is willing to fight Anderson Silva. That's a fight that'd be really cool to see. It's not one I'm super clamoring for, to be perfectly honest with you, but it's still a cool fight. I'd like to see Jon Jones fight at heavyweight though. I think there's definitely a lot of challenges there, and he could easily be the UFC heavyweight champion. I mean, the guy just is so skilled, stand up. I mean, he out-Sonnened Chael Sonnen, He did that, dog fight, just go forward, super aggressive takedown game. And Jones managed to take down Sonnen 3 times. I mean, this fight on paper didn't look good for Sonnen, and he ended up losing in the first round. It kind of justifies, because a lot of people, journalists and fans alike, were really down on this fight. Chael Sonnen did not deserve to, as far as a sport, any sporting way, deserved to get this title shot. It looks like the UFC wanted to build, or wanted it so that they'd have some heated rivalry, and it turns out there really wasn't. You watch The Ultimate Fighter, they're pretty cordial with each other. So, in a sense, I don't know what the numbers will be, but I think what they wanted and what ended up happening kind of blew up into UFC's face in a way. Nonetheless, Jon Jones, dominant, young, You know, it sucks he's injured, but man, this guy is just, you know, he's a star for the next, you know, couple years. Next fight after that, in a co-main, Michael Bisping beat Alan Belcher by unanimous decision. Of course, there's an eye poke at the end of the third round, and then they went to a decision. The fight itself, I mean, it was Michael Bisping doing Michael Bisping, and kind of like Alan Belcher doing Alan Belcher. I mean, the one guy said that maybe something was wrong with his eye, even before the big eye poke. But, you know, this is kind of Alan Belcher in a way. You know, he's just, I don't know what his game plan was against Bisping. He kind of just, it looks like he wanted a brawl or something, and that didn't happen. I don't know what he was doing. His fight IQ has always been subpar. His motivation and, you know, sometimes he comes across as like uninterested or something. And sometimes he's super into it. So, you know, sometimes Belcher will look like a top 10 guy. Other times, the guy will barely look like he cracks the top 15 to 20, you know? I mean, and this is just one of those times, you know, Bisping was tagging him with like jabs and crosses, occasional left hooks, a couple kicks here and there. Output-wise, Bisping was hitting combinations. And my friends are saying this too. Man, it's like, man, if Bisping actually had like KO power, this guy would be like awesome. I mean, he would just be knocking everyone out, you know? Unfortunately, he doesn't, but he does make up for it in output. His cardio is really good. And he's always on the guy. So, you know, with Bisping, I think he should get the Yushin Okami would be a good fight, since he's also coming off the win over Hector Lombard, if I'm not mistaken, or is it Alan Belcher? I forgot who Okami just beat recently. Or maybe the winner of Tim Bosch versus Mark Munoz, or the winner of Jacare versus Philippe. And if he wins this next fight, let's hope he can finally get his title shot, because any one of those guys, you know, would be fair game at least. I don't think anyone would dispute a title shot if, you know, like Bisping fought Jacare, for example. You know, it's like, oh wow, you beat Jacare. Well, if you give him a title shot on it, I think everyone's all like, why does he deserve a title shot? No, you know, he needs to beat that one guy, you know. Because he lost to Evans, he lost to Vanderlei, he lost to Vitor, and he lost to Sonnen. You know, and like almost all those fights, if he won that fight, he would have got a title shot. And he can never win that one. Both these guys, but Bisping especially, can never seem to win that one fight that would give him a title shot. So, yeah, good one for Bisping. Belcher, you know, it's just, this guy is just potential. You know, he's all potential, but he doesn't show it. Like, there's just something missing here. You know, he can fight like the loser of Bosch Munoz or the loser of Jacare Philippe or something like that. But as far as title aspirations for Belcher, I mean, he's so hot and cold. He looks huge for the weight class. He might want to think about going to 205. Of course, hopefully his eye gets better as well. The next fight after that, Roy Nelson knocked out Czech Congo in the first round. Yeah, this got knockout of the night. You know, Czech Congo, he's not one to get knocked out too much. He got knocked out by Mark Hunt. But I will say he is chinny in the sense that, like, the guy gets knocked down a lot. You know, Pat Barry managed to knock him down. Mark Hunt knocked him down. Roy Nelson just knocked him out. Who else? You know, his chin isn't that good, and it seems like he's resigned himself to grinding opponents. You know, you don't really see a lot of stand-up offense in Congo these days. It's really odd. He's over some really good knees and some really good leg kicks. Don't see it anymore. You know, and he couldn't implement that game on Roy Nelson. Man, Roy Nelson just he throws that overhand right from his hip, man, and it is just a full windmill. And when it connects, it just drops guys, or stuns them, at the very least. Nelson, he's one of those guys too that he's kind of like in Bisping's position where he can't beat that very top guy, whether it's like Frank Mir, Fabricio Verdum, or Junior Dos Santos. He just can't seem to beat that very top guy to possibly get him a title shot. But he's a good fighter. He has a hell of a right hand, moves well for his size, and he's actually a good grappler too, and he's tough to finish. I think he should get the winner of Junior Dos Santos versus Mark Hunt next. The guy, just on merit, the guy just keeps knocking dudes out. He needs to get top guys. He beat Chuck Congo, perennial mid-tier gatekeeper. Roy Nelson's also seen as a gatekeeper as well. It's a higher level gatekeeper, I guess. But, I think he kind of deserves to fight something like that. Maybe a Travis Brown, who's coming off that big win over Gabriel Gonzaga. Wouldn't be a bad fight. With Congo, though, so let him be a gatekeeper, Geez, I can't think of many prospects in heavyweight that he can fight. But, yeah, because he's fought like the Pat Perrys, the Mitch Rounds, the Sean Jordans, the Roy Nelson. He's fought everyone. Travis Brown. And there's really no point in giving him someone higher up there either. So, geez, give him like a Todd Duffy or something like that. I guess that's a good prospect. He's Congo's the guy to test prospects. That's the thing. If you beat Chuck Congo, or give him Stefan Struve or something like that, or Stipe Miocic, there's some guys right there. Congo, yeah. Shane Del Rosario, there's another guy he can fight too. So, he has a role in the UFC, but, it definitely is a firmly established gatekeeper role, pretty much. Okay, next fight after that, Phil Davis beat Vinny Magalhaes by unanimous decision. Phil Davis showed some improved striking. It's easy to look good in your striking against Magalhaes, who, I don't want to diss Phil Davis' striking, but, Magalhaes was kind of a punching bag. He was just standing in front of him, putting his hand in front of his face, and defending. But Phil Davis, nonetheless, he is improving his striking. It's a bit rudimentary, It still seems a bit stiff, but it's slow and incremental improvement. I'd like to see Davis fight the winner of Glover Teixeira versus James Tahuna. I think that makes some sense because those guys are around the same level as Phil Davis anyways. Or maybe Shogun if he beats Nogueira. It'd be nice to see Phil Davis eventually get a title shot, but he needs to improve his striking a lot more before he should be considered for a title shot. He's still young, he's still improving too. Yeah, winner of Teixeira versus Tahuna, I think is a good fight. Magalhaes, he's kind of a one-trick pony type guy. Now, excuse me, that was actually wrong. That was very much wrong. I'm sorry to say that. But he's kind of like a one-dimensional Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy. It's like if he can get it to the ground, great. But if he can't really do much from there. He's just fight more lower to mid-tier guys in the division, there's your Cyril Diabates, Fabio Maldonados, Roger Hollitz, just guys like that, I guess. Okay, next fight after that, you got Mr. Submission of the Night and Mr. Fight of the Night, as Pat Healy got the submission victory, rear naked choke over Jim Miller. Man, win one here for Strikeforce, man. I mean, seriously. Strikeforce guys have been looking great in the UFC, and even coming up, even a guy like Kurt Hollabaugh, like, despite losing, he looked good, Like, don't cut that guy, Man, Jim Miller won the first round pretty handily, but man, did Pat Healy just rally back. Healy's defense standing sucks. I mean, he has a really good chin, but he has some really bad defense. His stand-up is not good. It's definitely his weak point. One thing is that the guy is huge for the weight class, but man, his clinch game against the cage is nasty, and his grinding. I mean, this guy can just grind on his opponents, and make life hell. Like, this is the type of guy no one wants to fight a Pat Healy. He's like Mike Pierce, in welterweight. No one wants to fight that guy. I can see why. He's just a tough out for anyone. This is a good win too. Jim Miller's only lost to Benson Henderson, Frankie Edgar, Gray Maynard, and Nate Diaz. The only guy to finish Jim Miller for this was Nate Diaz by where he was like biting his own tongue. I mean, he put him to sleep. He just put him out by a rear naked choke. And I thought Miller would be able to contain the grappling of Healy, but no, that wasn't the case. Healy just manages to use his clinch game, get you against the cage, takedown, maybe some ground and pound, try and sneak around the back. He always tries to sneak around the back, and he's good at that. But it's hard to stop. He's not a quick guy. But he's really experienced, and he's just really tough, too. I think Healy, is a good win. He beat a top 10 guy. Jim Miller is a perennial top 10 guy. I'd like to see Healy fight the winner of Dos Anjos versus Evan Dunham, or the winner of Cerrone versus KJ Noons. I mean, there's also like the winner of like McDessie versus Barbosa. I don't really like that fight. If you want to give him someone higher up, maybe maybe a rematch against Josh Thompson, because he almost beat Josh Thompson. You could even do Gilbert Melendez versus Pat Healy. It wouldn't be the worst fight, to be honest. And Miller, the loser of Dos Anjos versus Dunham, or the loser of Cerrone versus Nunes. There's always good fights for Miller. He's a fun fighter. This is his second fight of the night. Before this he got, or like in a row. What I mean is in a row, because before this he got the fight in the night from the Joe Lozon fight. Good fighter, still a perennial top 10 guy. There's a level of fighter that he just can't beat, but other guys he can. Still a UFC caliber guy, very good fighter, always in fun fights. So yeah, there's still good fights for Miller, but yeah, Healy, tough dude, and he's definitely a guy I don't think many people would want to really fight. Okay, on to the FX prelims. Rustam Khabilov beat Yancy Madero by TKO, the thumb injury. It was looking really interesting too. Yancy Madero was doing good in the stand-up, and at times that Khabilov did take him down, he was scrambling back to his feet. I was actually really impressed by what I saw from Madero's here. Khabilov, his stand-up didn't look great or anything here, but man, that guy can toss dudes on their head. His wrestling is really good. I don't know what they're gonna do with rematch between these two. Would actually be a good idea. I'd like to see it. I was thinking the layoff would really affect the Yancy Medeiros, but I thought he looked pretty good. I don't know if he'd win, but he definitely looked pretty good. and it just contributed more to this bizarre night with the thumb injury, Yeah, so as far as who they fight next, I'd like to see him just get a rematch, to be perfectly honest with you. Okay, next fight after that, and what I think is the worst fight of the night is Vince St. Preux beat John Vellante by majority technical decision. The first round was good. The second round sucked, but once the second round happened, both looked gassed. OSP is a good athlete. He hits hard. He has holes in his game. His cardio is really bad. Striking's good, but he does have some defensive holes there. He's good. Like I say, he's really athletic. Hits hard. Both these guys are, I guess, prospects of the division, but man, they need to be brought up slowly. I don't really even want to see like a rematch between the two, but everyone just laid a giant egg here. The fighters and the ref is Kevin Mulhern. I mean, can you see? Or like, oh, I can't see. Well, I gotta call off the fight. I don't know. Like, from what I heard, I think Mulhern was actually in the right here. If a fighter can't see, then he has to call off the fight. Because it wasn't like a foul that happened, I guess. It wasn't like the referee caught it and then, gave him like the 2 minutes that he gives. John just kind of stopped the fight himself and said, I can't see. So, in a sense, I gotta defend the ref in a way, in that sense. But yeah, this fight kind of sucked. Don't know if they'll keep John Vellante after this. I kind of hope they do, just because they don't have a lot of guys at light heavyweight. They don't have a lot of prospects in the division. And I mean, there's guys like your Igor Prokrach or Fabio Maldonado's, Matt Hamill's around, Roger Hollett's around. Who else is around? I can't even think. Cyril Diabate's around, that these guys can fight. And hopefully just look more impressive next time out. I kind of giving both of them a pass because of the whole octagon jitters, but man, they looked like this fight was not that great. Next fight after that, Sarah McMahon beat Shayla Gaff by TKO in the first round. Good win for McMahon here. The more she fights and the more she wins, the more I want to see McMahon fight Rousey. The story builds itself. They're both undefeated, and they're both former Olympic medalists. One from judo, one from wrestling. The fight kind of went how I expected it to be. McMahon still needs to work on her stand-up, I guess. You didn't get to see much of it here. A bit worrisome she was taking all those knees, but she managed to get that takedown, get a crucifix, and just beat up Shayla Gaff. Not much more I can really say about the fight, but there's 3 fights and women's bantamweight that's happening right now. Tate versus Carmouche, Davis versus Sexton, and Kedzie versus Durandamy. I think if Alexis Davis wins, you can go with Davis versus McMahon. That'd be pretty cool. The winner of Tate versus Carmouche versus McMahon wouldn't be too bad. If they want to separate all of these fighters so that Ronda Rousey will have like challengers, you could give the winner of Kedzie versus Durandamy, because those two seem more of like the mid-tier type. They don't really seem like they're primed for like title contention, and they're both like kind of stylistically they're stand-up fighters, So if you want to kind of give McMahon a safer fight to the title, you'd probably want to go with Kedzie versus Durandamy. Women's division, 3 fights in, all of them good. I was a bit worried earlier in the fight, McMahon managed to get the takedown and didn't really do much with it. I was kind of worried that like this would turn into a grinder. And you know, women's MMA right now, it's pretty popular, but it's still under the microscope. Like every fight counts. You know, I mean, you know, it's not established enough that you can like start having just like more, I guess, boring fights. You know, I think, and there's kind of an expectation with women's fights too that they're gonna be more exciting than them. You know, more often than not. But you know, this one ended in the first round. Good one for McMahon. I think she'll fight Ronda Rousey. If Rousey gets past that Cat Zingano, I think they'll meet regardless. And I think that should be pretty interesting. You know, one thing that's really interesting about that, like, I'd like to see McMahon though just improve her game a little more. If you see like Bellator though, like Rick Hahn versus Michael Chandler. Hahn was an Olympic level judoka, and man, he get taken down with ease by Michael Chandler. You know, so it's this interesting thing with like wrestling versus judo here, because there's a chance that McMahon might be able to take Rousey down. You know, it'd be interesting to see if she can handle her ground game though. But yeah, you know, good win for McMahon here. Next fight after that, Brian Caraway beat Johnny Bedford by guillotine choke in the third round. Oh, Caraway, good chin on this guy. I'm not a big fan of the guy. I can never get behind this guy. I think it's because of the Ultimate Fighter and how like he seemed to wanted to avoid Diego Brando. But you know, he's a good fighter. One thing is, if the stand-up doesn't work his way, he can always use his wrestling. He's very good, especially against the cage. He's very good when he takes the back, and he like I said, he has a really strong chin. And he's a good like mid-tier bantamweight, and same with Bedford actually. You know, but Bedford just could not handle the wrestling, and it kind of sucks with Bedford because most of his losses are by guillotine, are by submission. You know, he's making strides to improve that game, but still, you know, he's still losing by submission. I think both these guys should just fight more lower to mid-tier of their division, really. And next fight after that, big surprise for me actually, Cody McKenzie beat Leonard Garcia by unanimous decision. It's not that Cody won that surprised me, it's just that he put up his grappling clinic against Leonard Garcia. I mean, Garcia looked like he had no takedown defense. But otherwise, I mean, McKenzie's aggression mixed with actual like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and just grappling, it's a pretty potent combination actually. You know, I really thought pretty low of Cody McKenzie. He looked good here, you know. Took the back a lot of times, would hit a body triangle, go for multiple submissions. You know, his triangle choke. I mean, he looked good, and he's still young. You know, I was saying like, hey, it might be good for this guy to go to the regional scene and get some seasoning. And I still think that's true. But if he can give McKenzie some more lower tier guys, maybe he can work on his game a little more. I was just impressed because he put on like pretty much a grappling clinic on Leonard Garcia. I'm not saying like Garcia's this great grappler or anything, but it's just I don't think very highly of either of these guys, so that's what just impressed me, you know, because I had very low expectations. Garcia, 5 in a row, man. This guy should be cut after this. There's no justification for keeping this guy. He's just not a UFC caliber guy. He fights. I mean, it's not even him versus the opponent. It's him versus air. This guy just punches air so much that it's like funny, you know. You know, it's not like I revel in guys getting cut, but he's just not a UFC caliber guy. I mean, that's, to put it plainly. And finally, in a very fun fight, Steven Siler beat Kurt Holoboy by unanimous decision. Holoboy he needs to just work on the holes in his game. He makes some mistakes, but man, this guy is a game opponent. It looks like he's about to get choked out in the first round, managed to get out of that. But he'll make a lot of mistakes that are very obvious, like going for that judo throw on Siler, in the third round. Which kind of sucks because up to that point, the fight was pretty even. But, he made that one mistake, and it really cost him. And Siler, talk about the guy from The Ultimate Fighter that didn't think really much of the guy, and it turned out he's pretty solid, Both these guys should just fight more lower to mid-tier of the division, really. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for my UFC 159 post-fight analysis. If you guys have any comments, just leave them below. And that's it for MMA for you. Thank you guys very much.